Marvel Fresh Start is about to kick off in a big way, and DC is giving us a preview of what's coming up. What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is Preview Picks, the show where I go over, hey, man, what are you doing over there? I'm doing the Fresh Start show. Yeah, but I thought that we were going to agree that I was going to do it. That's why I got my all clean cut. I got the collared shirt. Okay, I mean, if you want to do it, I guess that's what we're gonna have to do. Yeah. Okay. All right, I'll be back in a second. Can you believe that guy? Who thinks he's a professional? What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. This is Preview Picks, the show where I go over the comic books that are coming out on Wednesday and give you an idea what they're all about. So make sure you subscribe to get more of these every single Monday. The first book that I want to talk about is Curse of Brimstone number 2, which continues the story from Justin Jordan and Philip Tan. And while I was a little bit hesitant on this book, I'm going to give it another shot for this issue, simply because I want to see where this kind of concept goes. It does seem a little cookie cutter. Some people are calling it DC's version of Ghost Rider, but I'm willing to give it a chance. Another book I have been paying attention to, though, is Astonishing X-Men number 11, which looks to be some sort of conclusion to this storyline. We have a kind of revitalized Charles Xavier that's made his way into the world via the body of Phantom X. So if you haven't been following along with Astonishing X-Men, it's probably one of the better X books that's currently out there. Another book you should be following along with is Dr. Star and the Kingdom of Lost Tomorrows. So this is a continuation of a Black Hammer universe storyline. It's kind of an offshoot, so it's more world building where it really goes into the depth of the Black Hammer universe. So it's a book that I've really enjoyed the first 2 issues of, but if you're not really in on Black Hammer and you're not really invested in the series that they're developing or the world that they're coming up with, it might not necessarily be for you. Of course, as we're talking about refreshes, restarts, and reboots, we're going to be talking about Cyborg Number 22, which brings Marv Wolfman back onto the series, and it's going to kind of revitalize and rejuvenate the character. So while we thought that Cyborg was going to be canceled, it was just a really good timing for them to switch over creative teams and bring him back to his roots. And while we have new beginnings over there for Cyborg, we also have the end for Miles Morales' Spider-Man. So Spider-Man number 240, written by Brian Michael Bendis, is going to be his last series until they announce some sort of new creative team as part of the last part of Marvel Fresh Start. So while we do get the impression that Marvel is going to continue to use Miles inside the universe, especially with this Spider-Verse movie, this animated Sony film that's going to be coming out, it is kind of interesting to see where he's going to be placed. Currently, Miles can only be found inside the Champions book. Is he going to get his own solo title again? We don't really know. And then also, when we're talking about changes in creators, we've got Nightwing number 44, which gets Ben Percy on this storyline, and it looks like somebody is going to be taking over this. Originally, it was Tim Seeley doing this, and then Sam Humphries took over, and then there's been a few different changes with Jackson Lanzig doing a story in there as well, so there's a lot of things up in the air when it comes to Nightwing, but I'm sure that he's going to land on his feet and be in the hands of a good creator. Nightwing is just too popular a character for DC to ignore. Making our way back over to Marvel, we talk about Infinity Countdown number 3, which is a continuation of this storyline, which is really just a giant prelude to the Infinity Wars event, which is going to be happening later on this summer. So while Infinity War did just recently drop, this is, you could call it a marketing ploy, not necessarily as obvious as something like Civil War 2 when Civil War came out as a movie and it was garbage. But when we're talking about Infinity Countdown, it's been kind of entertaining. I'd like it a little bit more, but basically because it's a giant Guardians of the Galaxy book, and hopefully we get a little bit more involvement. We got Silver Surfer getting taken over by Ultron, and then we also have Adam Warlock making his debut in this one, or at least making his return kind of debut. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's going to be leading up to something much bigger. Speaking of big things, let's talk about Deathstroke versus Batman. So inside the Deathstroke book, Deathstroke number 31, we get part 2 of Deathstroke versus Batman, which is going to be kind of dealing with the parentage of Damian Wayne. So while Bruce obviously thinks that he's the father, and Slade obviously thinks that he's not the father, we're going to kind of find out, and it looks like Christopher Priest is enlisting the fans to help instruct DC on who they think should be the real dad. So I'm not sure if that's something that you guys are really interested in, but I want to see Christopher Priest write a really good Batman story inside a Deathstroke book. It just seems like a winning combo to me. And before we get into relaunches for these new titles, we've actually got Captain America number 701, which is going to be one of the last 3 issues or so before we get the brand new number 1, which is going to be happening in July. And Mark Waid has been doing a pretty good job. He's been using it as kind of a vehicle to tell his own story, which has been nice when he's been partnering with Chris Samney, but these last few issues, Chris is off the book, so it's not necessarily going to be the same kind of style and storytelling that you're really used to. So I can't wait to see where this kind of finishes up. However, the question remains, does it really matter with Fresh Start looming in the horizon? There is one thing that does seem to matter, and that's Batman 46, and Tom King is telling a time travel story. He's got Booster Gold in here, who's absolutely made a mess of Bruce Wayne's life and his history. So he's kind of created this Booster Gold point kind of universe where Bruce Wayne never became Batman because his parents were saved. They were never killed. And and this has led to a really chaotic situation that has put Gotham into flames, and nobody really knows what the hell is going on. So I'm excited by this storyline simply because I really love alternate universe, parallel timeline type stuff. Even though it might not have consequences, I hope that it does. But as we bounce away from Batman, we actually get into a bunch of brand new number ones, which is going to be a really big theme going forward in the next few months. First up, we have S.H.I.E.L.D. Rebirth number 1, which is from Jonathan Hickman, which brings back the original S.H.I.E.L.D. When we're talking about original S.H.I.E.L.D., we're not talking about early 1940s S.H.I.E.L.D., we're talking about S.H.I.E.L.D. with Leonardo da Vinci's S.H.I.E.L.D. So this is a completely different concept, and we're looking at this kind of rejuvenating the series before we get the final 2 issues from Hickman. So this is a long-delayed series that evidently Marvel got him back on board for, so that way he could finish it out and complete his storyline. And we actually just saw Leonardo da Vinci show up in another book, but we can talk about that in a different place. Also talking about new number ones, we have Harley Loves Joker number 1 coming out, and this is by Paul Dini, and he has just got such a passion and love for this character that I don't really think he can do any kind of wrong. Worst case scenario, it's going to be entertaining, and that's all I can ask from a Harley Quinn story. Continuing on with Hunt for Wolverine, we've got Weapon Lost number 1, which is a Daredevil story, and this is going to be a theme for Marvel. They're basically going to be unleashing a brand new Hunt for Wolverine book every single week coming into May, and then it's going to continue on for the next 4 months. So May, June, July, August, we're going to be getting all kinds of different series that all deal with teams trying to hunt down Wolverine. And we'll get bits and pieces here, but it's a really big investment to find out what happened to this character and exactly what's going on. I'm not sure if I'm ready to make that kind of investment. Hit me up in the comments down below so that way we can have that conversation, see if it's something you guys are going to be interested in, or if it's something that I should stick with to take care of you. Also, we have Harbinger Wars 2 Prelude number 1, so this is going to give us a little bit of a primer into the Valiant universe and exactly what's going on with Harbinger Wars. So they've already had an event like this before, and this is going to be the second coming of it, obviously because it's a number 2. And since I like Exo Manowar and the previous issue kind of led into this, I'm going to give at least the Prelude a shot and see if it's something that I'm interested in, but I can't make any guarantees because a lot of the Valiant universe doesn't necessarily stick with me in the same way that the main DC and Marvel books do. Heading over into other independents, let's talk about Boom Studios. We got Coda number 1, which looks to be some sort of kind of combination of Lord of the Rings and a whole bunch of other stuff that's going on in there in this kind of really cool art style. So I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to independent books like this before, but Boom Studios has a good reputation for carrying out these kind of titles, and Coda number 1 really got my interest just with the visual style alone. It's something that I'm going to take a look at and something that I think you guys should be checking out on the shelves as well when it comes to Wednesday. Another Marvel title to check out is going to be You Are Deadpool number 1. So this is written by Al Ewing, and it seems like it's a choose-your-own-adventure book. Kind of like you're taking an RPG, you're taking a role-playing element where you are making the decisions for Deadpool and you have these limited options. I haven't seen a preview of this, so I have no idea exactly how they're executing this, and it seems like something really tough to do inside 22 pages. So it's an interesting concept, but I can't wait to check out what the execution is to see if it's something that's really great or it's just absolute shit. One thing I know that is going to be pretty amazing, though, is Action Comics Special number 1. So this is DC's way to give Dan Jurgens and a bunch of other different creators a great send-off on Action Comics without encroaching on the storytelling that Brian Michael Bendis is going to be unleashing in Man of Steel. So this is a book that I am really excited to pick up. There's also going to be a Superman Special number 1 coming out, but that's going to be a little bit later date. And Action Comics number 1, it's not necessarily going to be coming until July. So this is going to tide you over for a little while if you need your Superman fix. Also on independence from Image, we have Death or Glory number 1, which is from Rick Remender with art by Bengal, and this is a really cool looking book. You've got me with this whole kind of cafe racer punk chick kind of aesthetic that's really going on with this, and I really like everything that Rick Remender writes. He seems to have a really good, interesting portrayal of characters that happens to evolve into a lot of different things. We're talking about Black Science, we're talking about Low, we talk about Seven to Eternity, I love Tokyo Ghost. There's a lot of things Remender that really remind me of what reading comic books was all about, so I have to recommend checking it out at least. Then we get to the final two big books of the week, and that's going to be Avengers number 1 from Jason Aaron and Ed McGuinness. So this is where we see Tony Stark, Thor, and Captain America, Steve Rogers, getting the band together for this brand new group of Avengers. And when you saw Mighty Thor number 706, you kind of get an idea as to how he came about possessing his brand new arm and his brand new Mjolnir, and we do get a King Thor storyline in the other Thor that's going to be coming out, but this right now, Avengers number 1, that thing, is where everything's going to start. So if you really like No Surrender, this is going to lead almost directly from that into this, and it's a great way to get into a new Avengers book, especially with a brand new movie that just came out. Then to finish things off, let's talk about DC Nation number 0. So this is only 25 cents and gives you a prelude, or at least a clue, to what's going to be happening in a lot of the biggest books from DC. It gets you a real introduction into No Justice. It gets you a little bit more insight into what's going to happen with Catwoman and the Joker and Batman at the the wedding time. Joker is just going to find out about these nuptials, and he has got something planned, and it's going to be kind of triggered here. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be set up in DC Nation, and it's crazy that they're giving it away for 25 cents, but what better way to get people hooked on the brand new storylines that are going to kind of continue, since DC Rebirth doesn't seem to matter as much anymore. So I'm also really interested to see what you guys think about the brand new #1 from Avengers #1, as well as DC Nation #0, so hit me up in the comments down below so we can start that conversation. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to get more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, comic book TV shows and games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.